Have you ever watched a woman slowly stop respecting a man, not because he didn't love her, but because he loved her too much in the wrong way? At the beginning, everything felt right. She admired him, listened to him, looked at him like he was a man she could trust, a man she could follow, and he loved her deeply. Not the weak kind of love, but the kind that makes a man patient, understanding, willing to overlook small things just to keep the peace. But what he didn't realize was this: every time he ignored something that bothered him, every time he stayed silent when he should have spoken, every time he tolerated behavior that slowly disrespected him, he wasn't protecting the relationship. He was quietly teaching her that losing respect for him had no consequences. And the most dangerous part? It never happens all at once. There's no loud moment, no clear warning, just a slow shift in her tone, in her attitude, in the way she looks at him, until one day, the same woman who once admired him no longer sees him the same way, not because she changed overnight, but because he tolerated what he should have never accepted. If you're not careful, this story becomes your reality. Comment below. Have you ever felt someone slowly lose respect for you without understanding why? At the beginning of every real love story, respect is not something you ask for. It is something she gives, freely. Think about it. When a woman truly falls for a man, there is a quiet admiration in the way she sees him. She listens when he speaks. She values his opinions. She notices the way he carries himself, not because he demanded it, but because something about him feels solid, grounded, certain, unshaken. And this is where most men get it wrong. They believe love is what creates respect. But in reality, it is respect that allows love to grow deeper. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. There was a man who met a woman at a time when his life was simple, but focused. He wasn't perfect. He didn't have everything figured out, but he had direction. He knew what he stood for. He knew what he would accept and what he wouldn't. And in the beginning, she felt it. Not through his words, but through his presence. When she tested him playfully, he didn't fold. When she challenged him, he didn't over-explain. When something didn't sit right with him, he addressed it calmly. And because of that, she respected him deeply, not out of fear, but out of emotional security. Because a woman feels safe with a man who respects himself. And this is the truth most men never hear. A woman does not fall in love with your tolerance. She falls in love with your standards, the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to pressure, the way you refuse to lose yourself just to keep her. Because in those moments, she is not just loving you, she is measuring you, quietly asking herself, is this a man I can look up to? Is this a man who will lead or bend? Is this a man who knows his worth, even without me? And in the beginning, as if you show her that you do, respect flows naturally, effortlessly, almost effortlessly. But what most men don't realize is this: the beginning of love is not where respect is tested, it is where it is given. The real test comes later, when emotions deepen, when comfort grows, when the fear of losing her begins to creep in. That is where everything starts to change. Comment below. At the beginning of your last relationship, did you feel respected without asking for it? It never starts with something obvious. No woman wakes up one day and suddenly decides to stop respecting a man she once admired. It begins subtly, almost invisibly. In the same relationship that once felt effortless, small moments start to appear, moments most men dismiss. She interrupts him mid-sentence, and instead of addressing it, he lets it slide. She speaks to him with a little less softness, a little more attitude, and he tells himself, It's not a big deal. She cancels plans last minute without real consideration, and he responds with understanding instead of honesty. Not because he's weak, but because he cares. Because in his mind, he's trying to protect the relationship. He believes that by being patient, by being flexible, by being more understanding, he is doing the right thing. But what he doesn't see is this: every time he ignores what bothers him, he slowly abandons himself. And a woman can feel that, not logically, not consciously, but emotionally, because the same man who once felt grounded now starts to feel negotiable. Let's go back to that man, the one she respected in the beginning. At first, nothing really changed about him. Except one thing: he started fearing loss. He started thinking, I don't want to lose her over something small. I'll just let this one go. It's not worth the argument. And one by one, he let things go. Not realizing those small things were never small. They were signals. Signals that told her, this man no longer enforces his boundaries. This man is willing to accept more than he should. This man is slowly choosing comfort over self-respect. And here's the part that's hard to accept. She doesn't lose respect because she wants to. She loses respect because she no longer feels the same strength in him, the same certainty, the same edge, the same quiet authority that made her admire him in the first place. And once that feeling begins to fade, her behavior starts to change. Just a little. Her tone becomes sharper. Her patience becomes thinner. Her effort becomes inconsistent, not all at once, but enough that if you're paying attention, you can feel it. But most men don't confront it here. They wait. They hope it fixes itself. They give more instead of correcting what's wrong. And that is where tolerance turns into a habit. Comment below. Have you ever ignored something small in a relationship that later became a big problem? By the time a man notices the change, it's already deep. Not obvious enough to call out easily, but strong enough to be felt in every interaction. The same woman who once looked at him with softness now responds with indifference. The same conversations that once flowed now feel forced. The same presence he once carried with confidence now feels questioned. And this is where confusion begins, because in his mind, he did everything right. He was patient. He was understanding. He avoided unnecessary conflict. He gave more when things felt off. So he starts asking himself, why is she acting like this? What changed? Why does it feel like she doesn't respect me anymore? But the truth is, the shift didn't happen when she changed. It happened when he stopped correcting what should have never been tolerated. Let's go back to that man. By now, he feels the distance. So he tries to fix it. He starts giving more attention, more reassurance, more effort. He becomes more available, more accommodating, more careful not to upset her. But instead of bringing her closer, it pushes her further away. Because here's what most men don't see. When a man over-adjusts to keep a woman, he slowly loses the version of himself she respected. And a woman cannot deeply respect a man who is afraid to stand his ground. Not because she's cruel, but because respect is tied to how a man carries himself when things are not easy. When boundaries are tested, when emotions are involved, when there is something at risk, that's when she watches the most. That's when she feels the difference. And when she realizes that he will tolerate almost anything just to avoid losing her, something changes inside her. She stops seeing him as a man she can look up to and starts seeing him as someone who is trying to hold on. And that shift is dangerous because once respect drops, love begins to feel different, less passionate, less intentional, less real, until eventually she pulls back emotionally, not always by leaving immediately, but by disconnecting first. And by the time the man finally decides to speak up, to set boundaries, to stand firm again, it often feels too late, because the standard he once set is no longer the standard she sees. Comment below. Have you ever tried to give more in a relationship, but it only made things worse? By the time most men reach this point, they think the solution is to fight harder for the relationship, to love more, to give more, to prove more, but that is not what restores respect, because respect was never built on how much you give. It was built on what you refuse to accept. Let that sink in. The man in this story finally realizes something. Too many men learn too late. It wasn't the big moments that changed everything. It was the small things he kept allowing, the little signs of disrespect he brushed off, the boundaries he softened just to keep her comfortable, the standards he lowered just to avoid conflict. And in doing that, he didn't just lose control of the relationship, he lost alignment with himself. And that is where respect truly breaks, because a woman can handle a man who says no. She can handle a man who stands firm, who speaks clearly, who walks away from what doesn't feel right. But she cannot deeply respect a man who watches something bother him and chooses silence. So what must a man never tolerate? Not just disrespect in obvious forms, but the subtle things, being spoken to without regard, being tested without response, being taken for granted repeatedly, not because you want control, but because you have self-respect. And here's the truth that changes everything. Setting boundaries is not about pushing a woman away. It is about showing her where she meets you, because the right woman doesn't lose attraction when you stand your ground. She feels safer, more certain, more connected, because she knows this is a man who will not lose himself. And that is the kind of man a woman can respect, long term. The kind of man she doesn't test endlessly. The kind of man she doesn't slowly pull away from. The kind of man she chooses again and again. So if you take anything from this story, let it be this: love deeply, care genuinely, but never tolerate what slowly destroys your value, because the moment you do, you don't just risk losing her respect, you risk losing yourself. Comment below, what is one thing you tolerated in the past that you will never accept again?